Hey, thanks for coming to part 2 of this episode. If you want to find part 1, check the show notes below for a link, or click the info card at the top of the screen right now. Otherwise, please enjoy the rest of the show.
Guilt tripping yourself about every second you're not working is really bad, but I'd be lying if I, said I haven't done it.
Yeah, it's one thing to know that you shouldn't feel bad about something, but finding a trick to talk yourself into actually feeling that you don't feel bad about it is a totally different game.
I don't actually. I'm not like getting down about it. By the way, it's just like something that's like there. You're like, oh, I could be posting, but I'm over here instead. So it's not like I'm like, oh, hate life because everyone hates me. Or I don't know. It's just like maybe I could do that. I don't know. It's not like as bad as I made it sound, or maybe I don't know. I mean, it can get bad sometimes, but
I think anybody listening to this will have a hard time seeing you as anybody that stays mopey for too long. Sorry, Meg, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, it's more just like it's like a little voice in the back of your head that you can't turn off, right? That's the way I would describe it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it can get sort of loud. I don't know. I think a lot of this comes down to disposition. Dave and I would be very different in that regard, where I do get I do get mopey, and my wife has to kind of slap me around sometimes. So thank God for her helping me out. But for you, either of you guys, but Dave, maybe you can go first. You both have like very strong, like recognizable styles, I guess. I can sort of tell, both of your guys' work, but do you guys ever feel pigeonholed or painted into a corner to keep doing the thing that's been working really well for you? And maybe also, do you feel dissuaded from trying new things or like branching out into different styles or different subject matter?
Yeah. That's why I started another Instagram account called Dave Cave Exists. Go follow it. Yeah, it does feel. I mean, I like doing the stuff I'm posting, but it does feel like if I post something like totally different, like it's usually it doesn't get as much as attention. It's like very obvious, so it's like, oh, I'll just stick with like if I want to keep my. It's like thinking of it as a business almost. It's like. Like McDonald's isn't going to be like, oh, we're going to stop serving burgers. We're going to serve like Chinese food or something one day. And then we'll go back to burgers the next day. And then we'll go to like hot dogs another day. No, you got to like, people have to know what they're coming to your place for. So it's like, I don't feel it's pigeonholed a little bit, but it's like, it's kind of like the name of the game. I don't know. I benefit from staying in that pigeonhole, so pigeonhole is a good place to be. Then I can always do my side stuff and on my other account where other people still see it, and I still get my fix of likes.
So a lot of your pieces are attractive women fan art, basically from a subset of franchises out there. Do you ever get tired of drawing those characters? And still feel compelled to draw more because they like Raven or they like Chun-Li?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard to show my account to like my parents' friends when they're like, "Oh, my son's an artist." Like, what do you do? And I'm like, "Oh, it's just like comic book art." Like, yeah, it doesn't really get too boring. I don't know. I think it just comes like working at like Legoland and doing caricatures for so long, we were pretty much drawing like the same thing over and over again for 13 years again. So I'm kind of just like used to it. It's not that I like, and I mean, and I do run like 10 miles a day. That's just boring. But I'm used to getting through. I'm like training myself to get through the boring and mundane. So even if I am feeling that way about a piece of art, like I can still get through it. And once it's done, it's done. And they don't take that long either. So it's just like, if I'm being tortured by one of my drawings, which is not a lot, probably making this sound terrible. I like what I'm doing. But if I am feeling that way, it's like an hour of my day. So it ends quickly.
What about you, Meg? Do you?
And I
ever
will
get
say,
tired?
I mean,
Go ahead.
there's a benefit to that, because like a lot of you get like illustration jobs. Sometimes you get like an assignment that you don't want to do at all, and you still have to like power through it and make it look good. So I look at it as training for that. I mean, I do backgrounds for Meat Canyon. Sometimes I have to like paint a table,
Mm.
and it's like not that fun. So you have to like it and get it done. So
Meg, you mentioned that educational stuff was your
hmm
builder of community thing. Do you ever get tired of doing educational stuff on stream? Or whether it's the same exercises over and over again, or just being on for the educational part?
Um, every once in a while, yeah. I think what helps me kind of avoid that feeling is I like switch up the topics pretty frequently. So we kind of hop between like drawing and painting, like figures, environments, animals, whatever, all sorts of stuff. Because yeah, if I did the same thing every week, I would definitely start to get really tired of it. um, and then I don't. Everybody says like, "Oh, you have a style." It's very like we can discern, but I don't feel like I've never really felt like I had a pretty like a solidly defined art style. So I don't feel super, at least with my personal like online work and stuff, like confined by style with what I do, and I feel pretty free to experiment. And I post really inconsistently totally different things when it comes to Instagram and stuff like that. Maybe it's not the smartest way to grow, but yeah, I know that I would completely lose attention span if I were like just doing like the same thing over and over and over again with my like day job type stuff. Sorry, Dave. Yeah, sometimes I'm not drawing things that are fun. Sometimes it's just like really boring props, like I don't know how many times I've had to draw like a telephone and a receiver in the past 2 months. I'm like, please, no more phones. But it's fine. It's it's like I try to push myself to like learn the style of the thing I'm working on and make it fun in its own way. Just get through it. Put on a good like podcast in the background and just power through it, kind of turn my brain off.
you kind of find ways to make it interesting, but like you can change. Like for me, I change like little things like lighting. Like, oh, cool,
Yeah.
it's drawing something differently now, but it's like the same thing. Little ways to make it different.
The lighting on
Yeah,
the thing that you're
totally.
drawing, or the lighting in your environment?
In my eyes and all over. in the drawing and stuff,
Okay.
obviously. Dude, drawing in different environments that's cool too. Like maybe draw in the kitchen one of these days. Like it's like a venture. I don't know.
Do some plein air painting. Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Before we switch topics, I do want to circle back to the educational stuff with Meg. Have you considered like doing any?
Oh
no.
This happens sometimes. Moose gets
Doing any
gets
what?
dropped.
Have you considered doing any ... Yeah, I know. I'm like, I need to know.
Just kidding, NSA. He'll come back in a second. And
Right. It's fine. But Meg, have you considered doing any Skillshare classes or Gumroad tutorials? So you can just do what you do with your community, but also make it as a source of revenue?
I don't know. I've like thought about it. But I feel like and the other reason why I think I enjoy like the group study thing and why I don't get like tired out by it is I don't really feel like it's like a class type setting where I'm like, first do this, then do that. Like it's more like a group, like I'm sure that you had this in in the art school that you went to, Dave, where you would just have like when they would just have an open figure drawing session that wasn't instructed. They're just like, open a studio from 4 to 8, come and go as you please, stay as long as you like. And it's just sort of like a collaborative study environment, but nobody's really like leading per se. I feel like it's a little bit more like that, and that's what makes it a little bit less stressful for me, because I don't always feel like the confidence to be like, I know what I'm doing, I'm a professional. Like because then I'll be like, oh no, they'll realize that I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe
Same thoughts with myself.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry, long-winded answer, but Gumroad, Skillshare, stuff like that. Maybe someday. I don't know. Maybe. Not anytime soon.
Well, switching gears a little bit. We talked at the beginning about how you guys are sort of into a lot of different things, and Meg, your main focus is animation. You work in the animation industry. Can you tell us a little bit about what your process was like getting your foot into that door?
So after the college and not really knowing what I wanted to do and like noodling around for a couple of years and stuff, I started working in like mobile, like social games, that type of stuff. It was actually primarily in Illustrator, which is funny because I don't touch Illustrator almost at all anymore. Like kind of like in-game, like graphic sprites for sort of like top down, like city builder, little phone app type of games. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. And I worked at a couple places doing that for a few years, and it was a good job. People there were cool and stuff. And then I kept getting I worked at 2 studios that basically eventually laid everybody off and shut down. So it just wasn't really like lasting. And then at that time, like I'd always wanted to get into animation originally. And we had moved to Southern California at that time because I'm originally from Arizona, the Southwest. There's no, animation jobs out there really. And since we had already since we had moved to Southern California, I wanted to kind of give that baby a go again, and just started like reworking my portfolio, taking like workshops, going to conventions, trying to like connect with other artists online, on Twitter, stuff like that. And eventually I got a contract job at like a really small non-union studio. Shout out to Oddbot. Awesome crew there. And it was just supposed to be for a month. And at the end of the month, they're like, hey, do you want to stay another month? We have some more work for you. And then at the end of that month, they're like, do you want to stay for 3 more months? And then I had eventually worked there for like 2 years. And they're like, oh yeah, I guess you're like a permanent employee now. And so I worked with that was sort of like my entryway into animation. I always say that I kind of snuck in the back door. Because I had worked there for quite a few years before I ever got contacted by kind of like a bigger studio.
Is it really competitive, the field in general?
Yeah, I would say yes, it is. It's very competitive, but it's also very collaborative. And I think it's like, I don't know how to describe this. It's like a healthy competition. It's not like you're actually antagonistic, sabotaging each other, cutthroat, like maybe some other industries. Like it's kind of like a wholesome anime rivalry where when your rival wins, you're like, oh, but I wish you the best type of thing. And everybody's kind of got each other's back because it's project based, and that like when you like you want to like when you work with someone in the past, then you might in a couple years time be like, hey, I need a job, do you know anyone hiring? And you all kind of like help each other out a bit.
Right.
I was just going to add one more thing. It's definitely very competitive, but I feel like it's an industry that's experiencing a good amount of like growth because of all like streaming platforms and stuff like that.
COVID.
That too.
Yes. Yeah. No. Speaking of that exact thing, Dave, you've started venturing into that yourself, and you haven't put out a lot of animated work yet, but I know you've talked a bit about wanting to do more. Do you feel drawn to it as just a hobbyist pursuit, or do you have plans on something, more long term, getting more professional about it?
Right now it's definitely just a hobby because I've done 2 animations, but I wouldn't want to like insult other animators by saying I'm an animator. It's like 2 frames. It's like that type of like, I don't know. But I mean, it seems like animation on YouTube's making a big comeback. And everyone's at home now because there's a second lockdown in San Diego, at least. So I feel like I'm not gonna like. I'm back at the beginning, right? I'm like, I want to have fun with it, but if it starts like popping off, like then I'll probably start focusing on it more and try and like monetize it somehow. But it's hard though, because like it takes so long. Like even my stuff, it's like took me like 2 weeks for like 30 seconds of animation. So
That's not
it's
bad.
hard to like. And it wasn't good.
Meg's
by the
over
way.
here like, damn, that's quick.
It's not like,
Well, like
I don't know. It's not like illustration where you're like, oh, I'll just like sketch out something and hopefully it's good. It's like, no, you got to like put time into it. So like, I don't know. I would want it to become something, but it's like, it's a lot of work up front and I would have to ignore a lot of other like projects and it's tough.
Meg, what was your visceral immediate reaction to the timeline? Like,
oh well, I guess I just wanted to like clarify. Like I personally I don't think I'm like the best animator. I'm super rusty at it. I do like more like pre-production design, and then someone else who's better at it animates after me. Yeah, I'm super slow at it myself as well.
Also, by the way, it's like not fun. Drawing
dare
like
you.
8 drawings for like 1 step. It's more like it's cool to see it after it's all done, but like actually working on it, you're like, oh, I gotta like color like 1,000 drawings now. Like, cool. Goes my next 2 weeks.
I enjoy like the rough, like the pencil, but then yeah, once you have to clean it and color it, then it's work. Then it's like, oh my god, yeah.
so you got to find the fun, right? Find what parts you enjoy, and then make a career out of that if you can.
You have to like honestly like try it. Like it's like you have to just like wanna do it really. It's like wanting to run a marathon. Like you have to wanna. It's not fun to run a marathon at all.
Well, this is
It's fun after you finish. It's a fun story. You can be like, I did that. Like that's the fun part.
yeah. The
Anyway.
the idea of fun is an interesting one. I actually used to do marathon cycling, and so like long distance on your bike for 12 hours at a time. And when I would tell people this, they'd be like, "Why would you do that? That doesn't sound like any fun." And what you're saying is true. It's not fun, but there's this accomplishment. And you said that very much the same thing. Like the end product is cool. You like seeing it when it's done, and that's sort of the thing. Like everything up until that is sort of like this mental game that you play with yourself to overcome the obstacle and the hardship and all of the things that you have to get through. But it's that process itself that you kind of have to like almost fall in love with in order to get that payoff at the end. So I don't know if that even makes sense, but
Yeah, I mean it requires discipline, and I take pride in like the discipline I have to be able to do this stuff. So is that like it's not all about fun and games. Sometimes it's just like just have to do it.
or even just kind of like reframing what the meaning of the word fun means, and that oftentimes people think of fun as something sort of like vapid and empty, just like passive entertainment that you just sit there and have pushed into your eyeballs and then you like laugh or cry or whatever. But then there's this other kind of fun, I don't know if we want to put it in quotation marks, but it's this active like driving effort that you have to put into something. And that's when people are like, oh, that sounds like a lot of fucking hard work and you're just beating yourself up. That doesn't sound like fun. But I don't know. I wanted to maybe have a little go back to that idea of like lessons learned that we talked about before with like the social media and the Twitch platform. As far as like getting into, you know, the world that you work in, Meg, were there any big lessons in hindsight that you would want to impart to newcomers or the less experienced?
I don't know. Like, it's like, I don't know if I really would have done anything differently. I just wish, and I think like going into it, I didn't really understand the differences between different like job roles in a production. I just wish I would have understood that a little bit better. But other than that, yeah, I don't know. I think it was just like, I was still, and I still am like kind of learning and improving as an artist. And I think it was the path that just was good for me at that time. Cause a lot of like, oh man, I wish I could like work on this show, like jobs I was applying for and just getting constant strings of rejections. Like looking back at it now, I'm like, oh yeah, I was, of course I was getting rejected because I just wasn't ready. I wasn't like at that skill level yet. So I'm happy that I was able to take a route that helped me kind of like learn along the way and stuff, you know?
But it's still good that you were applying for those positions, even if you weren't qualified for them in hindsight, because you gotta have that spirit to try and fail in order to succeed ever.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I always tell people like if you're applying for animation jobs, like a string of constant rejections is not bad and totally normal, even for like experienced people. And it doesn't mean that you're bad, it just means that you're not a good fit for that particular project, because every project has really specific needs. I'm sure it's the same with like, you know, like any sort of freelance illustration you guys might do as well. You do like, they're like, oh, we love your work, you're just not a good fit for this particular project, but we have this other thing, you know.
Exactly. You never know.
And it's hard like you have to learn how to like try not to take feedback like that too personally, and like keep a little bit of like safety padding between like your self-worth as a person and like your artistic like skills, and not like judge your income, not be like, oh, I'm like everyone hates me because you get like a rejection letter.
You never know. Some of these rejection letters might be actually really nice and complimentary, and then you feel good about yourself even after being rejected. There was one artist who applied to work for Moon Studios for Ori and the Blind Forest. They were literally hoping for a nice rejection letter because they were feeling down about themselves, and they ended up being hired for the job as a background illustrator for the project. So you never know.
Yeah. One place I've worked at, I'll say that they contacted me about a job, and they sent me an art test, which is a normal thing in the animation industry to do like a little test first. And I was like, oh, I was so excited. I was excited to work there. I was feeling really good about that test. I finished it. I turned it in early, immediate rejection. They didn't like my test at all. And I was like, oh man, and it was a real like kind of like punch in the gut. And then the same studio contacted me about 6 months later for another test on a different project, which I was really interested in. And I was like, oh my gosh, but I messed up the last one. I was feeling really down about it. So I just spent longer on it. I tried my best. I like handed it back in and was sort of just like, well, you know, it is what it is. They're probably not going to like it. And then I ended up getting that job. So yeah. And it was like, I liked that job a lot. It was a fun project. So you never know. Yeah.
Are you allowed to say what it was? Or is it still NDA?
It's yeah. Sorry.
That was an acceptable answer. It's totally fine.
I mean, it's something like people know I've worked on, but I don't want to say like about the behind the scenes process. So I'm not going to say names. Yeah.
Do you have plans to stay in the field that you're working in now, or do you think about going freelance or in a different direction at some point?
I don't know. Maybe in the future. I just like honestly, like it's like I just hate doing my own taxes and stuff. Like I enjoy
fair.
being like just getting a W-2, like direct deposit, like really normal, boring things. I like the stability right now, and I like the community and the people I work with. But maybe in the future, I'd like to focus more on like personal stuff.
Sure, fair enough. You're also both doing some work with comics, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong. That's sort of your main focus at the moment, right? Is freelancing comic work. And
yeah, I don't know if it's a focus. Yeah, I've done some freelance comic work.
Well, I know you're currently involved with a couple of projects, and I guess my larger question is, what's that like? Like, what is it like to? Because you think of comic artists, and they work for a studio. You don't hear as much about freelance comic artists. What's that like? How do you sort of feel the confidence to step into that and start finding your way through that?
It's weird, man. Well, I mean, I have a lot of fans on my Instagram, so I'll get people approaching me with like, "Hey, man, I got this story idea. Like, can you illustrate it?" And if they're willing to pay my crazy rates, like, I'm like, "Yeah, dude." And they usually have like a weird script, and yeah, I try to make sense of it. The scripts are always bad. I usually have to rewrite them so I can like understand what they're talking about. And but they're usually like kind of fun. I don't know. And then I've been approached by like a French company to like write my own comic for their website. Like it's like it's like webtoonfactory.com or something. And so they're gonna like pay me to like write my own comic pretty much, which is kind of cool. It's like I've never written anything long form. Like it's easy to write like short stories, but like writing something that's gonna be like potentially like 24 issues or something.
Oh wow.
It's been like pretty rough. It's been a good it still like might not happen, but it's like I've been trying hard to like learn how to write a story. I've been studying my Star Trek episodes. Been doing everything I can to make it like a good story, but it's so hard to like connect all the fat of the story and stuff. I don't know. It's been a good learning process.
Well, say more about that. Where do you go to learn about writing and develop like new skills in that area?
Oh man, I have a book called like Anatomy of a Story, so I've kind of been reading that. But again, it's like one of those things where it's like I wish I had like some sort of mentor to just like tell me all this stuff, because like sometimes you read it and it's like abstract information. Like, cool, I don't know what any of that meant. Also, my reading comprehension is pretty bad. So it's tough. Like what I'll do is I literally will like try to deconstruct stories that I like. So actually like literally just like watch an episode of Star Trek TNG, and I'll write down what's happening in every scene, and then I'll deconstruct that to its like generic form of what's happening in the scene, and then I'll kind of like start to notice patterns. It's like self-teaching. It's a pain in the ass. I get to like watch Star Trek, so that's cool.
I was just thinking how bad can it be if you're
it's been a
dream.
if art college was like that, right?
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know, but I've found that to be very like helpful actually, because I picking out like the stuff I like in a story and stuff like that. So it's becoming like very catered to how I would want to tell a story. And
You may actually
I
enjoy
don't know.
looking at the recent videos from Red Letter Media, where they talk about their favorite Star Trek episodes, and they actually deconstruct the narration, the narratives, and the story structures. Like they say, there are this many types of stories in Star Trek, and they have before every commercial break, they have each act end, so you can figure out how they set up the stories based on when the commercial breaks are. And that was really interesting. I had no idea, but I found out from watching a YouTube show that just talks about entertainment stuff.
Yeah, I've seen those. I've also, I mean, I have been looking up like how to write story videos also on YouTube, and even like how to write a Star Trek episode, like those type of videos. And yeah, you learn a lot of like stuff. You're like, oh, cool.
I'm gonna.
Did
we're
you
gonna.
know
We're
like
gonna
some of the
name
stories in Star Trek were like submitted by fans?
Yeah.
Like they were taking like
I didn't know
fan made
that.
scripts at some point.
What?
Interesting
Fan
stuff.
fiction?
Well, it's not fan fiction if the fan. Well, I guess it is. It's weird. Where's the line?
Canonized.
Yeah, it's canonized.
Like what better way? Like fans, like it's so like there's so many Star Trek episodes at some point where like fans will know Star Trek more than just like writers they're hiring
Right.
on.
Right.
They'll know the continuity errors and stuff. I don't know to like what extent they would use these scripts, but it's a thing they did. So
Yeah. Star Trek aside, there was another thing I wanted to bring up, and it's
How
Dan
dare you.
Harmon's his 8-piece story wheel, and he uses it for Rick and Morty. He uses it for Community, and it's basically a simplified version of the hero's journey. So that every episode, there's some kind of sickle thing where you end up at the start of the episode, where you were at the start, but something's a little bit different. But you just go around the circle. You do every step for some characters, and some characters they don't learn their lesson, so they skip those steps, and then you can quickly.
oh yeah, I should probably look at that. I don't really like Dan Harmon's stuff, so but
Well, you don't have to like his material. You don't have to like the writing.
snap.
You can take the
Yeah, it
simplified
sounds
structure,
interesting.
or you don't have to. You don't have to do it anything I say. That's the thing. This is just a suggestion.
Probably look into it.
Probably. Back to the Star Trek. What is there anything in particular about? You're just like a Trekkie, or is there something particular about Star Trek that you liked in terms of analyzing the writing?
Like the writing is usually like pretty rock solid. I mean, there's usually like no plot holes, and yeah, just like Star Trek. I don't know. It's like
That's fair.
every one of the episodes is like, oh man, that's like a really interesting like story that somehow ended up working in the end. Also, a lot of them aren't hero's journey stories, which is interesting. So it's kind of cool to see like a different form of storytelling. I mean, my comic will probably be a hero's journey comic, but it's kind of cool to see like these different types of like stories that exist.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, Star Trek.
So, Meg, how has Star Trek influenced your career?
We're gonna name this podcast
I'm
Star
more
Trek
of
and
a
Drive-Thrus.
Star Wars person. Please forgive me.
Yeah, that's really a simple answer too.
But
I'm
you do
not
have
super
a
familiar. I'm sorry.
you do have a comic project that you're working on, though. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I do. Yeah. I've been working sort of like my very slow, I always describe it as my super indulgent side project. Webcomic. It's called Isara. And I have 2 like episodes, that's what I call them, out right now. And I'm planning on releasing the 3rd one at the end of this month on the 28th. And it's kind of like just to describe how it functions really briefly, it's sort of like a video game cutscene or like a visual novel where it's loads like one screen at a time, kind of like a cinematic like storyboard sequence, and the text kind of loads in at the bottom. Still getting some of the technical kinks out of it, but this is something I've been working on for the past year or 2, as consistently as I can, given the world, being what it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, it looks like a lot of work.
Oh, thank you. And it is very much like a textbook hero's journey story.
I mean, there's
Very
a reason
Joseph
why they
Campbell.
work. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what platform are you doing that on? There'll be information in the show notes, but I wanted to hear more about it.
It's just independently hosted, since the format's kind of wonky. It doesn't really work for webtoons.
So is it actually like there's motion graphics involved?
A bit, yeah.
So you're just doing that yourself, and like what software are you using to do this?
I make it in, well, I just draw all the art in like Photoshop, like regular, and then I put it all together with the text and everything in Adobe Animate.
Oh.
And then a programmer acquaintance, friend of mine, wrote a script that makes it export as like an HTML5 web page, basically.
Oh, I think I've seen them. Those are dope. I do remember seeing some of those.
Yeah, no, they're really neat.
I'm very, very slowly working on it, but it's coming together.
Is this just an outlet that you feel, just like as a personal project, or will it have larger goals and ambition as you go?
I mean, I hope that people will enjoy it and then like the story as much as I have what's, been in my head for many years. But I wanted something just completely like where no person can no executive can give me notes or say it's like too much of this or too much of that, or like, no SMP. Yeah, just something that's like really personal that I have like a lot of control over storytelling wise, from someone who's been working in like a really controlled collaborative studio environment professionally for many years. I want this to be very much like not that, and nobody can say like you can't have that, it's for kids. Like, yeah.
So Dave, your animations have been mostly just on YouTube, right? You've sort of started wading into those waters.
Yes.
Tell us about that, because YouTube seems pretty intense, like daunting. It has it can have a lot to offer, but it's sort of like in the Instagram sort of similar vein. It's just like can be kind of mind-boggling. Going into it, is there any research that you undertook to sort of start finding a heading and what you want to do with YouTube?
Well, I mean, working with Meat Canyon for like a year and a half now is pretty much. I haven't really like focused on YouTube or animation yet. So the last animation I uploaded was like a month ago. So it's not like right now my YouTube channel is just like a dumping ground for any video I want to watch when I'm like 90. So there hasn't really been any effort to like grow my channel. But if I were to, like, whenever I start focusing on that stuff, it's gonna be like in a similar vein that like Meat Canyon did it, because it'll be like simple animations, try to upload something every week, just be consistent. It's always like consistency is the key. Then just try to make them as awesome as I can, make them funny and horrific, as most of Meat Canyon's stuff is. So
I think
shout out Meat Canyon, go watch his stuff. Or don't ruin your life. No, I'm just kidding.
I think what you mentioned was consistency being key, and that seems to be consistent. No, it seems to be applied to all platforms, whether it's streaming or posting on Instagram or uploading to YouTube. What everybody wants is a consistent schedule.
Yeah, I mean, especially if one of your things like pop off, like those people are going to want to come back for more like soon, and then if there's nothing after that, they'll probably forget about you. People have short attention spans these days, so and it's tough with, I don't know. That's the end of that statement.
It's so hard. That's something I definitely struggle with, like consistent anything uploads. I admire your schedule keeping.
It does
Yeah, it can
seem
feel like there's some momentum that you have to keep, right?
Mhm.
And if you lose that momentum, then it's extra energy you have to take to start building it back up again, and it's just a mental drain. Even though it's just doing one more thing, one more day, or one more week if an animation takes an entire week, it's still the drain of knowing that there's something else you have to do every week and you can't stop ever, or you lose everything.
That's true. I mean, it's nice when you start getting like paid for it, so there's always like that incentive. But I don't think it's necessary. I mean, look at like Mr. Beast. He uploads like once a month, and he's like 50 million followers. So I mean, can like somehow, if your video is like really good and has like a really solid idea, I think that's what you should focus. Don't just like upload crap. Like really spend time on like ideas people will remember, and like remember that only you are putting that awesome idea out there or whatever. It's not just like shit posts. Like honestly,
Wow.
like one really good post is probably better than like 7 like shitty posts. They're like, I don't know, something to think about. I haven't done any of this. I do the shit posts, so but that is something I've been thinking about.
Well, you've been thinking about it, and I think that's the important thing. And what we're
Yeah.
interested in is the consideration that you have given it, because it's a big part of it is all of the preliminary work that goes into it that goes unseen when people see it from the outside. You just show up one day and there's the giant Instagram following, big YouTube following, whatever, but it's the little steps between here and there that no one sees that are like kind of the most interesting. And that's why it's curious for us to talk to you about it, because even though it's not yet, you're like, well, I don't know, but you are thinking about it. So that's what is important to us. You mentioned something, about getting paid. YouTube can be a pretty nice place to be financially if you can get that traction going. If you're inclined, do you mind discussing like any numbers that you've seen either other people working with or that you yourself have encountered? What is what kind of income can be generated there?
I don't know if I want to give like actual numbers, but it can be.
No, you don't have to be super specific.
Pretty good. I would. Ow, I just got like a cramp in my leg. Hold up.
Oh, no. Oh shit.
Can be. And I don't. It's hard to like. I doing okay.
Okay.
So is like Meat Canyon. If I'm doing okay, Meat Canyon is doing. He's like a god. He's god tier. If you have like you plan for like a good merch drop, and like it all goes well, like you can make like a lot of money in like a weekend. So like that's where the benefits come in. I wouldn't say, I know with like YouTube, like there's like the adpocalypse and stuff. So you probably won't make a lot of money from YouTube itself, especially if your videos are getting demonetized. If your following is there, you have like you advertise your Patreon well. Talking about Meat Canyon, I'm doing none of this. I'm just going off of what I've observed Meat Canyon doing.
No, that's valid.
He's had some like he's been doing okay. I'll just say that. I would say like
sure.
Yeah, like Doctor. There's like Doctor, and then there's Meat Canyon.
Okay.
Doctor, and then Meat Canyon, like that. And then I'm like way, like somewhere near the dentists.
Dental assistant, right?
They suck. I'm just kidding.
So the other thing is with YouTube, it isn't just that it itself can generate revenue, but there is a large audience already on YouTube that can find you and then support you elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, if you can make I know it's like harder to make money from YouTube itself, but if you have a big following, like you should be making money via merch or Patreon or something. That's where the focus should be. You shouldn't like rely on YouTube ads because they can just like change any day, and then all of a sudden like you're making no money. That's what happened to a lot of channels. Yeah, keep your if you have a big following, like keep them engaged. That's what I'm trying to do now. Like now that Instagram has started monetizing streams, so I've been like all over that, and it's been really cool to like actually meet a lot of the or like meet a lot of these like followers that I've never met. Like all it is you post, they like your picture, and that's it. That's the interaction with the fans. But now that there's more of a interaction with the fans, like via stream, like I think that's the key. Was going somewhere with this, and then I forgot. Like it's better for them to know who you are. Like I feel like you'll be more successful if you have like a personality on your page somehow.
Okay.
Well, speaking of interaction with your fans, Meg, how have you found various ways that you can interact with your stream with your community during a stream?
I mean, like, I feel like it's so silly to say like I just read the chat, but a lot of the interaction just comes from like like if somebody is sort of becomes, when I say like becomes a part of the community, I mean it's someone who's been a frequent like attender. That's not the right word. Who's gone to a lot of streams, and we all kind of remember each other. And I'm like, oh hey, how have you been? Like how'd your job interview go? How's school been? Like I try my best to like remember things about people and follow up with them and make sure they're doing good. And then I try to also stay in communication, like on Twitter, Discord, stuff like that, as best I can. Sometimes I kind of forget to log in for like a day or two at a time, but I try my best to be like present, and it really is just sort of like a friendly community of everyone.
How do you think channel points and your channel rewards have factored into the familiarity with each other?
The channel points. I don't. On my channel, we just primarily use to feed my cat.
That's what I was going for. Yeah.
That's 90% of what the channel points are used for. Is you can redeem them for cat treats. But yeah, little things like that. I feel like we've formed almost like community, like inside jokes or like little reoccurring like memes and stuff like that. And I think that's present in the channel points, in the emotes, and just little like jokes, things that are brought up really frequently. And it becomes like, oh, remember that one time? Like,
Yeah.
And that's a nice way to kind of interact with everyone.
Like any group of friends.
Yeah, it's really not that different from maybe like a friend group you've known for a long time, and it's like, oh, do you remember that one time so and so did something? Like it kind of becomes like that. Yeah.
And then eventually you have to put a limit on how many cat treats you give.
Yeah, we have a limit of 3 treats per stream so that my cat does not turn into a absolute balloon.
This is really underscored by the chat that we have currently, that like once you started talking about your cat treats, it was like 3 comments like, oh yeah, here I am. I'm here for the cat treats. So many cat treats. This is obviously a popular topic of conversation, but that's awesome.
I wish he was here right here. I don't know where he is. He's definitely like our mascot.
He does not approve.
The inside joke of the stream is that he's actually like the boss. I just work here, and he's the person who's in charge of the channel CEO.
Dave, when are you going to get a cat?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I need to get a cat.
Yeah, actually, the secret to streaming is just get a pet.
Shit.
And put them on camera and tell them to look cute.
I always say about like illustrations, like if your illustration is bad, just put a dog in it or something, and it'll make it better.
Mm-hmm.
Just default.
Everybody loves pets. That's all you need to know.
Well, we're coming up on the end, I think, and I just have to make a quick mention that Cryomera is showing up with a very large group of people, and she always threatens to raid our channel at the end, and she couldn't have timed it better. We are actually coming up on the end. Unless Moose, do you have any other questions or follow-ups?
Yeah, no questions this time around. I will just want to point out that in chat, whenever either one of you had any little bits of imposter syndrome poking through, Art Turkle or somebody was saying, no, there's no room for imposter syndrome in you. You're too good. So just keep your head up, guys. You guys are awesome.
Well, you know what? One last comment about that. I don't know if you would agree with this, Dave, or Moose or Joby, but I think the more you grow your skills or your career, whatever you want to call it, the worse your imposter syndrome gets. I've experienced that feeling more now than at any point in time before.
Yeah, it was. I'm still just like learning how to get better, pretty much. And but now that people see me as like a professional artist now, and I'm like, I'm still I get better. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, same.
Yeah, it's always a constant struggle. There's the graph that I don't know if either of you guys have seen it. Anytime this comes up, I always like to talk about it because it's such a perfect illustration of this exact thing. And I don't know, I need to make a command for it just so it like comes up in chat whenever this happens, because it's like the one line is your improvement in skill, and then the other line is your improvement in ability to like self-analyze or analyze your own ability. And so like one is going up like this, and then it'll flatten out, and then the other one is going up and like crosses and then keeps, and it makes this double helix pattern as like one is like always crossing and overtaking the other. And so it's at times when your ability to analyze your own ability as an artist overtakes your skill as an artist that you're in that that's when imposter syndrome is the worst, I think. And then you have like those moments where like your skill really like takes off and you're like, I'm fucking awesome, no imposters here. And those are usually short-lived though. I feel like the more that you do it, those are shorter.
Really awesome 2 weeks.
Yeah, right. And then the imposter is like 2 years.
It always comes back. I don't know. I've been like asked to like make a class for a website, and I'm like why? I think what you were saying earlier, Meg, it's like what authority do I have to like teach people how to like, I'm gonna like ruin their lives. So yeah, it's when stuff like that comes up, it's like, oh, you want me to teach people? Like, I guess there are like little things like fundamentals that everyone can agree on, that it's easy to teach that type of stuff. I don't know.
Well, I think the fundamentals are everything. That's like what we're doing is like the process of getting better at art is just getting better at the fundamentals. Like there's nothing like after the fundamentals that you start learning. You're always just like getting better at that. So I would say do the educational stuff, man. Because the thing is that like there's always like a new way of hearing the same thing, and someone might have gone through like 10 people before they got to your video, and then it actually clicks. Thank God the cat showed up. And I feel like if the cat hadn't shown up, then the podcast is like cursed, and this is all just going down in flames. But he came up. Taro, that's his name.
Cat approved. Seal of approval. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
Thank you, Taro. That's so awesome. Well, I only have really one more question for you guys. Dave, you go first. What's something awesome that's happening in the world that you're really excited about? Not including anything that you're doing yourself. That doesn't count. Something else in the world that you're really excited about.
The Mandalorian's pretty good. Haven't ruined it yet. I would say like now that they're bringing in like Jedis and Boba Fett now, it does kind of feel a little cheap now, but sorry. gave a name to Baby Yoda, which I didn't really like, but
Mm.
I feel like they're doing a lot of stuff where it's like, it's slowly chipping away at the awesome, but it's still awesome. And
It was
go
awesome.
follow Meat Canyon.
Awesome enough to take
What's not
couple
awesome
of
is
dinks.
drive-throughs at McDonald's.
We're gonna have to come up with our own inside jokes here soon enough.
We've already got it. Megan, same question for you.
I'm also really liking The Mandalorian. Yeah.
Oh shit, you can't have
I'm
the
liking
same
the
answer.
season a lot more than I thought I would. I'm sorry, it's good. I have to.
Surprised
It's
week.
worth your Disney Plus subscription. Something awesome in the world. I don't
Taco
know.
Bell took away all my favorite items. So,
No,
what's
stop.
that about?
It's not your turn anymore, Jay.
Oh,
Look,
the CGI Lupin the first, whatever it's called, movie is coming out like in a week, and I'm super hyped to watch it.
What is it again? What's the name of it?
It looks good. It's it's Lupin the first, because of course it is.
Okay.
Lupin 3 the first. He's sort of like a classic anime character. I guess there's been a lot of different adaptations. It's the first time they've brought the character to the CG, and the CG looks like really good. I'm excited to watch it. Like, I just inject the art like directly into my veins.
Is it going to be on Netflix or like?
I'm not sure. I hope so. I think so. Maybe.
Everything's
Or
on
maybe-
Netflix now.
Maybe like HBO or
But
something.
nothing is.
And one last thing for self-promo for things that you do involve yourself. So, Meg, what are you currently working on that you want to let people know about, or tell people where to find you?
I'm at Meganimation on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and Behance. You can check out all of my art there, and you can check out my comic at isaracomic.com, and also Isaracomic with an I at the beginning on Twitter and Instagram as well. Those accounts are a little bit empty at the moment because I'm like barely updating them, but it's something I want to really like focus on next year, 2021.
I have an Instagram called Dave Cave Draws. You can follow me there. Now, I said I would be a bad teacher, but I will be opening up mentorships in January. It's a thing I've been working on.
Wow, very cool.
You can follow me on Twitch. Dave Cave Draws on Twitch. It's bad. Don't watch it.
Where
And
are
also,
the mentorships going to be happening?
I'm gonna watch it.
Sorry, what?
Where are the mentorships going to be
I don't
happening?
know. Mentorships. What was the question? Sorry.
Where are the mentorships going to be happening?
It'll be like a Discord call. I mean,
Okay.
it's probably gonna be like a tier in my Patreon, and I'll take in like 3 people maybe, and it'll be through like Discord calls. We'll hang out and draw. I'll tell you how to draw better. Gonna be a fun time, I think.
And all of this
Try to-
information. Go
I
ahead.
feel like that's the best way to do it. Like I can't like write a class. Like, it's hard to like.
Mhm.
I feel like if we're just chatting and drawing, I can like sort of like slowly tell people why I do certain things. I'll do like draw overs of their drawings, like how they can break their construction down better.
Mhm.
I don't know. There's like so many things that I think I should tell people. It sounded so douchey.
It also sounds like good YouTube content, though, like
Mhm.
mentorships, video recordings.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do want to do more like instructional video type things. But honestly, if you really want to get better, I feel like you need to have someone kind of like drilling you sometime. Like
Mhm.
you like
Yeah.
I don't know, watching those videos is like collecting stamps sometimes. Like you'll take in the information and then use none of it.
Like I said,
some
it's that-
people
then it's that
like,
one
learn
time
a
there where it
lot, but
clicks.
I feel like most people are not learning anything. So I don't know.
Yeah,
In
gotta put it-
portfolios, it's gonna be a thing. It's gonna be a thing.
It's like the difference between lifting weights and watching somebody lift weights. You actually have to do the work.
It's like reading about how to run faster, and not, you can know how to run faster, but it doesn't mean you can run faster. So
You can hear about how it's important to be nice to people at the drive-thru, but then you actually have to make the effort.
I'm nice to the people. I am nice. They are the ones that are giving me anxiety. So,
You are the common theme
and
here,
not
though.
telling me to have a
So
nice day.
is
I
it really? Is
appreciate
it?
drive-through people. You
is
all
it
are
really-
doing
yeah.
your best.
Yeah. Is it really everybody else, Dave, or is it you? I don't know. That's a question for another time.
If we ever hang out in San Diego, we're going to some drive-thrus, and then I'm going to critique everything I did
Yes.
wrong. Not to them. I'm nice to them. It's afterwards where I'm like, they didn't tell me thanks.
Dave's diners, drive-throughs, and
Talk
how's the show intro go?
Talk about
I have,
YouTube
like, a
content, Dave. Fuck, you need to make YouTube videos about fucking drive-through shenanigans, man.
Yeah,
Drive-through reviews.
You're quadruple D now.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's
all
actually
of
not a bad idea. I might do that.
I'm saying, man, all of this information though that we just talked about, the seriousness, the serious information, all of that will be in the show notes. The drive-through, I don't know, maybe. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. You guys both had so much great information. I really look forward to listening to this again because it takes a couple times for it all to sink in. So thank you guys.
Yeah, I hope I gave any information at all. I feel like I barely answered your questions. It's fun.
No.
It's been a lot of fun. Let's do it again. Let's have a drive-through episode.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, I'll see you guys soon. I'm gonna hit end on the